Hello my Drunken Buddhas, welcome. Today I'm talking about why reframing your beliefs doesn't work and what you can do instead that's much more effective. So this is quite a common idea in things like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, and various other kind of mindset-based coaching programs, training, psychologies and things like that. So sort of this idea of, okay, you have this negative belief, this limiting belief, I'm not good enough, I'm weak, I'm unlovable. Some of these core beliefs that we hold that are really painful and heavy, and that you want to, reframe it in some way. So rather than I'm not good enough, it's like I'm not good enough. It's like, okay, I am good enough. I'm confident, I'm strong, I'm beautiful, I'm sexy. Yeah, sounds great. It sounds good. But there is a problem with it. There's a few problems. I'm going to explain some of them in this video, and then help you understand why that is and what we can do that's much more effective. So the reason the reframe, and there are all kinds of different techniques they use from like writing down all the reasons why you are good enough, or affirmations, or things like that. The problem is that's understanding is coming from the level of mind, that understanding of what this belief is and how I need to change it. It's like it treats it just as a mind issue. There's this thought, this belief, I just need to change it. But it misunderstands what that belief actually is and what's going on. And crucially, the fact that deep down in our survival physiology, deep in the body, in the chest, in the belly, where the fear and anger and shame and sadness lurk, we're holding tightly on to these painful, limiting beliefs because they actually serve our survival in kind of a counterintuitive way. So when you operate at the level of mind only, and you try and reframe I'm not good enough to I'm good enough, what you're really doing is, in a certain sense, you're denying what's in the body. You're not going there, you're resisting it unconsciously. Because when we go to that affirmation of like, I'm good enough, looking in the mirror, telling yourself, I'm good enough, I'm good enough, I'm good enough. Why do we need to tell ourselves that over and over again? Because actually we're believing the opposite unconsciously, and the unconscious really resides in the body. So at the level of mind, you're saying one thing, but deep down in the body, you're saying another. And this conflict is going to create a lot of suffering. And it's ultimately not going to work because the survival physiology of the body is 100 times more powerful than that little voice in your head going like, oh, but here are the reasons why I'm good enough because of this, because of that, because of this. Your survival physiology does not care in the slightest, any more than it cares. If an elephant rampages into the street, and you calculate, well, technically the elephant's not going to run past me, and it, by 2 inches, and so I'll be safe if I just stay right here. No, your nervous system can go, let's run. It's going to go, get the hell out of here. There's an elephant rampaging in the street, right? It doesn't care about the rationale, the reason. And so why is this survival physiology holding on to this belief? What's happening here? Well, we take on these beliefs to serve us in some way, even though they're painful. These limiting beliefs, they tend to keep us safe. So I'll give you a few examples. Say I believe that I'm weak. If I believe that really unconsciously, deep down, I will start acting in a way that's in alignment with that. I might not talk up, when I'm in a group. I might take less risks. I might not start that business. I won't ask that girl out on a date or that boy out on a date. I won't risk getting into conflict, standing up for myself with another person. It keeps me small. It lowers risk, which all keeps me safe. It's incredibly painful. It's inauthentic. It doesn't feel good, but it does work. Similarly, if I feel like I'm unlovable, then that fuels me to try and become lovable, to change how I appear, how I speak, to change my behavior in ways that will help me become lovable. This is why you see people striving. Do you ever know that person who is so perfect on the outside, they're striving, they've got the perfect body and that job, they're continuously working, like workaholic types. Yeah, if they stop for 5 minutes, they start just bursting out in tears, because deep down there's a sense of just not being enough, and the striving is their attempt to compensate for that sense of not enoughness. And what they need to do that is to believe that they're not enough and that they're unlovable. You see? And this has to remain hidden. In order to work properly, all these aspects have to be unconscious. And where does this come from originally? In a certain sense, from childhood, really, where as we go, our parents, they're rarely perfect, unfortunately. So there's moments of disconnection from the parent. In extreme cases, can be moments of abuse, unfortunately. But it can be, whether it's large or small, it creates this sense in us that we're not safe, we're not loved, we're not held. No matter how hard the parent tries, there's going to be moments of this. And this is so threatening to our nervous system, we instantly have to start compensating. It's like, okay, I need to do something to stay safe here. So we start believing, okay, I'm not lovable, okay, I'm weak, okay, I'm not good enough, as a way of then driving us forward to stay safe, maybe by being small, or strive in the world, going outward into the world. These are just mirror reflections of the same movement. And this comes with a deep wound in the body. That disconnect from the parents, that moment of unsafety, vulnerability, creates a deep wound within us that is then covered over with various layers of anger and fear and so on. And that wound and that anger and that fear is what is really driving those beliefs. So you can see that letting go of this belief, I'm unlovable, it's not like you're just letting go of some little leaf that you're just, I'll just let it go. You're letting go of a whole way of being that has helped you to survive and overcome unsafety, disconnection, lack, and so on. So it's incredibly powerful and useful for you. Even though on the surface, at the level of your mind, you don't like it. You're saying, oh, why do I have this? Much deeper down, you're never letting go of this because it's so useful. So this brings us on to, what do you do instead then? Because if you're saying all these affirmations and stuff, you're really just avoiding going into the body where these wounds are, where this anger are, where this fear are, where all this dark stuff is that we fear. And the answer is to start to come into the body, to start to approach those parts of us which have been abandoned, which feel a little bit unsafe. And there's a lot of nuance to how to do this, and I have other videos that go into more detail. You can check out Resourcing, the ultimate, what's it called? The ultimate something or other, I can't remember. the ultimate healing technique, I think. But just Google Resourcing or put it into my YouTube. Then there's How to Feel Your Feelings. I've got a complete guide on that, which will be useful and provide more techniques and context. But essentially, you need to get into the feelings in the body that are driving, that are hooking on to the belief. So if you believe you're not good enough, there's going to be layers here. There's going to be, at the core, there'll be some sense of lack and vulnerability, hurt. Then there might be some fear or some anger or both above that, that's like protecting that wound. And that anger and fear is what's kind of driving you out into the world. Either in the sense, when I say driving out into the world, I mean either in the sense that could be just hiding from the world, but it's still driving that behavior, is kind of what I mean. Or it could be, you could be striving and workaholic and all that kind of stuff. Or this is also what drives, addiction and things like that. If we're drinking a lot, it's to numb out to that fear, anger and pain that's held in the body. And you need to start meeting these layers one by one. You need to be well resourced when you do this. So you need to have capacity in your nervous system. And this is a practice of learning to feel safely into your body, developing your capacity to be with your experience, and then learning to embody that anger, to allow that fear. And as you be with those parts of you, you integrate them back in. And then underneath it, there's space for that wound to come up. From that young part of you that experienced that disconnect, that experienced that pain, that trauma. You can start to feel that and feel it through, which is the same as healing it, integrating it. And then when that wound is healed, there's no need for that belief anymore to cover it over, to compensate for it. Because if there's no wound, there's nothing to compensate for. So it just relaxes by itself. And normally this process happens gradually. So as you feel more and more of the wound, as you process and heal it, that belief becomes more and more transparent, and the behaviors that you're acting out in the world, striving, hiding, whatever it is, start to just diminish in intensity. And you just go through this process, it gets more and more transparent over time. And the advantage of this is you're not then striving to maintain the opposite ideal. So if you're not good enough and you're striving to maintain the sense of being good enough, that's almost as painful, right? There's this image you have to live up to. So that you then have to be perfect all the time, and you can feel the stress and strain of having to, okay, I'm good enough. It almost feeling in every second and everything you do that you are the best and perfect and good enough. Really, you want to be without any images at all, any ideal, bad or good. Then you're free to just be. You can imagine how this feels to do with like something like tying your shoelaces, right? You don't have any sense, okay, I'm rubbish at tying my shoelaces, or I'm great at tying my shoelaces. You have no identity. There's no horse in the race. All you do is just like, you just tie your shoelaces. And sometimes you tie it well, and sometimes you tie it not so well. And like, if you don't tie it well, you just tie it up again. And like, there's no mental narrative around, oh, I'm so bad at tying my shoelaces. It's not hooked up to anything in the body. You don't get a nervous system reaction. It's like you can be like this in all areas of your life, theoretically. Not by trying to reframe your beliefs, but by getting to what's fueling them underneath. And then so you can let go of the whole mechanism. And then you're kind of like, but you're kind of like brushing your teeth, but with your job. Like, you just do your job, and sometimes you do it well, whatever that means, and sometimes you do it not so well, but like, it's not tied into your survival physiology. You don't get triggered. Your mind's not going crazy. It's just, maybe you need to retie your shoelace. I don't know. So in summary, if you want to reframe your belief, what you really want to do is dissolve all those beliefs by going into the fuel, the root, which is those repressed emotions and leftover residues of survival responses in the body. And if you want some help with that, you can get in touch with me below, or check out my website where I have more resources to help you.